All right, so after watching the video, I want to run through a couple examples and then explain what you're going to have to do and submit with conditional. So we already went over conditionals. We know an if statement and what it is, but we'll look at a couple of these, and then the assessment that I'm looking at, it's a little bit tougher, but I'm going to go over that as well. So if you look here, you have a very simple if statement. If card is red, award your team 1 point, else award the other team a point. So basically, this is just a very simple if. If this is true, you do this. Otherwise, you do that. And I don't think we have any questions on that part of it. The next part is the same program. So this is just kind of written out. And the next program is pseudocode like code, but in no particular language. So this is getting a little closer to code. In the last part, you're going to actually have to write this in Java. This is just getting our pseudocode down of kind of explaining it. So same thing, if card color is red, and we know, remember, I'm going to talk about this later, but 2 equal signs checks to see if something is red, rather than 1 equal sign would assign it to be red. So we'll talk about that in the next notes when we get into Java a little bit more specific. You add 1 to your points, otherwise you add 1 to their points or the other team's points. So the same thing, these two are identical. Next one is what we're going to kind of look at is we have what we call a nested statement, because we have an if here, and then here's the else, but inside this else you can see there's another if with an else. So if I read this, if the card is red, you get 1 point. Done. And this would never even run. However, if your card was not red, if this was false, you would come into here, and then you would check this. If the card is higher than 9, the other team gets 1 point. Otherwise, award your team the same number of points on the card. So that's how a nested loop works. If it gets in here, it's going to check and then run either one of those. So if the card is red, it just does this. If it's black, this does not run. You get in here. If the card is higher than 9, the other team gets a point. If it's not higher than 9, then your team gets that number of points, the number of points on the card. And there you can see the pseudocode for that as well. So a little bit more in depth when you have that, but that is what you're going to kind of be looking at. All right. So with that being said, you need to complete this activity. Okay. And just to I'm going to kind of go through a couple things real quickly, but you should be able to run through this. So if the card is lower than 5, and then you can see here that I have another if statement. If card is black, you would run this. Otherwise, you would run that. Else, run this. So a little bit more complicated. You're going to have to submit this. I'm going to kind of run through one of them with you. Just to make sure we're okay. And then at the end, I want to see who won. You can circle who won and their points at the bottom. All right, the end of round score. So make sure you kind of read that closely. So just to go through this a little bit more in depth, if you think you're good, you can kind of stop there. If not, just another minute. And you can see the first card, if I show that one more time, the first card is a 3. So let's just kind of look at this a little closer here, and I can actually highlight some stuff and draw if I need to. So I get a 3. So I check to see if this is true. So if card is lower than 5, which it is, so the card is lower than 5, so that means I get into this if statement. Okay, so that's where I'm at now because that was true. If that was not true, you would jump straight down to this else. Okay, and then check this if. But that was true, so I know I'm in here. So if card is black, well, the card is black. So now I know that this is true. So this is where I'm here. So I will award your team the same number of points on the card. So it looks like I get a 3. Okay, and that's how that would work. If just say that this was, a 9, okay, I think you can kind of run through and see exactly what would happen there. But same thing would happen if card is lower than 5. Okay, so I said, what was I say? It was a 9. So pretend this was a 9. So let's cross that off. So if that was a 9, if card is lower than 5, 9 is not lower than 5. So I would not get in this if statement. So I would jump all the way down in here. And then it would say, if card is hearts, award your team 1 point. It's not hearts, it's 9 of spades. So this would not happen. So you would actually get no points in that case. Okay. Um, Try and go through it. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. You can watch it again if you need some help. You can message me. I want you to try this out. I do have an answer key on the back end after you submit it. You can watch the answer key that kind of walks you through it a little bit closer, and then you can see where some of your mistakes were if you made it. No big deal if you have a couple mistakes. I want to see what you can do on your own going through these if statements. The next notes will take you through doing something very similar only in Java, and then you'll have to fill something out a little bit more in depth on the syntax of that. All right, good luck.